Apex a bit soon. Stay up. That's it. Out we go. In. Apex as well. Oh, we missed the apex there. Let's go out. Right out the concrete. Latch out in fourth gear. Third gear. Fourth down. Nearly to 5 down. Well, welcome to another episode of repairs to this poor old Triumph 2500 Mark 1. And well, just as a bit of a catch up, if you haven't been watching the other videos, the motor's out. The motor's at the engine reconditioner. He's just boring it and grinding the crank. I'll be building the engine. The gearbox is also out. I'm mucking around with the gearbox, changing overdrives over, but I'm waiting on a part for that. It's getting power steering. That's all been purchased and just sitting on the floor waiting to be installed. So I actually am getting close to, I wouldn't say running out of things to do. The engine's not due back for at least another 3 weeks, and then I'll have to order the parts. So anyway, still got to do a bit of cleaning up on the engine bay and under the car. The rear sway bar needs a bit of attention. So there's a few jobs still to do, but we are running out. So let's get on with the next job, which is cleaning the carburetors and tidying up the manifold. This has got triple SUs on it. So now these carburetors were fully restored at great expense by my old man maybe 15 years ago, but then this car is not like a daily use car, it's a club car, so in kilometre terms it probably hasn't done 15 years worth of driving. So they shouldn't be that worn, and they're certainly not going to get a big overhaul. What they're going to get is a clean out and check over and reassemble. The manifold will need a clean, and I'll probably paint the manifold. It's I painted it when I put these carbies on all that time ago, and it's held up pretty well, but it needs a clean up now. So let's get on with it. Alrighty then, let's get on with pulling these carbies apart. Now, just about every single car I've ever owned has run SU carbies. Started out with minis, rallied a Marina for 7 years. Then into the Dolly, and the TR7 had Strongbergs on it when I got it, but soon after got SUs. My father's cars, Triumphs, had SUs, so had a lot to do with SU carburetors. Doesn't mean I know that much about them, but I've certainly played with them a lot. I think my Toyota and this current Subaru and a Falcon Ute are about the only things I've had that haven't had SUs on them. So they're pretty simple things. Let's pull them apart, give them a good clean, and basically put them back together unless I find something tremendously wrong. So let's get on with that then. Yeah, my old man bought these carbies one day when we were at a super sprint at Oran Park. Now, Oran Park, for those who aren't Australian, was a racetrack just outside Sydney that is no longer with us. It's now a housing estate. Anyway, we were there. I think I was competing. I don't remember if he was. But anyways, some bloke had these for sale and the old man bought them. I had to do a lot of work to make them work. The manifold and the carbies were all there, but there was no sort of linkage arrangement or anything. So there's a little bit of my side of the road engineering involved here. And some of it's not, some of it's, well, it is, but it isn't, sort of thing. But the facts of life are, it's worked now for a long time, and worked quite well. So now, I think I said in one of the other videos, this has got Lynx written on it. And Lynx is a Australian sort of manufacturer of various things, and manifolds being one of them. But the old man was actually at Lynx one time buying something, and they reckon they'd never made a SSU manifold for a Triumph. So the guy we bought it off sort of thought it was a sort of something they made as an experiment and never continued with. It is pretty rough in terms of its engineering, but then a lot of stuff from that era is a bit rough that way, so it's hard to tell. This car was been sort of backfiring through the carburetors when it's cold. Once it warmed up, it was running fine. But having had the head off now and seen that the number 3 was running lean, that sort of answers that question, I think. So I'm going by the look of these, I don't think there's going to be a great deal wrong. But seeing the cars in a million bits, these things might as well get a good clean out and check over. Certainly going to get retuned. Now, I bought one of those doohickeys that goes on air intake that sort of tells you how much suck they got. Never used one. Watched a video on how to do it, but I haven't done it. So that will be another one of life's new experiences. Now, this doohickey that I'm taking off at the moment is just like a sort of bracket that the accelerator springs hooked to, and it's made by me a very long time ago. Now, works fine. Perhaps doesn't look the best, but works fine. Now, during the Dolly's rebuild and this car's rebuild, I've been doing things like tidying up, or in this case, doesn't really need that much in the way of tidying up, just what would be nice to do would be to get the welder to weld that together instead of it being bolted together. Now, it's been on the car for 30 years, so, or more, so it doesn't exactly, it's not a weak link or anything like that. There's no real need to have it welded, but it would be nicer. But given the welders sort of overwork, I'm not sure I should go down that track. I'm tempted to chop a bit of that off just to make it easier to get off, But anyway, we'll give some thought to that. Maybe I would get the welder to weld it up for me, because so much of this stuff that I'm doing like that is sort of all a bit too late. It's 30 years down the track, and sure, it might make it tidier and better. It doesn't really matter now. Okay, this is number one. My old man had two of these 2500 Mark 1s. The other one was like his road car that he drove around in for many years anyway. Now he had triple SUs on it as well. Completely different setup. This is one piece of manifold, where this other car had like 3 individual manifolds. They were interconnected by like rubber hose, but they were also like you'd find on a 2500. The carbies were like 90 degrees to the block, if you like, where these ones are more like a mini. They're on an angle. It's not like 45 degrees, but a definite sort of angle. They're also carbies themselves are further away from the head. The manifold, so it's longer distance between the carbie and the manifold. Now I don't know if this is just a good design and the other one wasn't quite as good. This car always had more grunt than the other car. Now the other car had power steering and it also had a different diff ratio, so it might have just been a bit of an illusion that it had more grunt. I'm pretty sure this thing's got a lower diff ratio and consequently gives you that feeling that it's got some grunt. I think the power steering robs a bit of the grunt, which will be interesting because I'm putting power steering on this car now, so I know I'm a wuss, but that's not something I would have done ever going back in time. It's really only happening now because stop doing that. I'm not getting any younger, and this car's getting harder to handle about, particularly in parking and that sort of thing. And at the time I decided to do it, I was staring down the barrel of this car becoming my main car. It's not now. I've bought a Subaru, but nevertheless, power steering on these old Triumphs isn't too bad. I don't really dislike it. So it's not as good as not having power steering in terms of being a driver's car, but it's not that bad. Yeah. So that's what's going to happen to it. So it'll be interesting to see whether there's a drop off in power. That might be hard to assess with an engine, a particular engine that's going to get bored out, what have you. So it's probably going to have a bit more grunt anyway. So, but we will wait and see. Now this linkage arrangement is all my doing. It is a Lynx. We bought it from Lynx. It's all just, you know, you buy everything, the shaft, these little rods and everything. And I think we had some sort of things welded on here, aluminium welded on here, so I could drill and tap into there. it's a pretty good setup, it's worked well. Alright, this manifold can get a good clean. I'll have to mask it up and give it a coat of paint. Well, it's another day, and more on this 2500. I've cleaned up the inlet manifold and give it a coat of paint. It looks very nice and will do the job. The next thing to do is to pull the carburetors apart and give them a clean out. Now, just looking at them, they're in really good condition. They were rebuilt, like I said, it's a long time ago, but not in Ks. So they're just going to need a good clean up, I think, and put back together, make sure there's nothing wrong with them. And SU carburetors are a pretty simple thing, so well, let's get on with it. I just give them a bit of a clean up on the outside first. Get some of this external grease off, or oil or grime, whatever you want to call it. Alright, let's get this carburetor apart. Like I said, there's not that much to them. And when I say I'm going to pull these apart and clean them, I'm not going to strip them down to the absolute last nut and bolt. I'm just going to take this top off and the top of the bowl off, and then clean everything out and put it back together, basically. Clean it and blow some compressed air through everything and make sure everything's nice and clean. This is carby cleaner. Well, I'll blow some compressed air through that, dry it all out, put it all back together. Alrighty then, let's get this carburetor back together. I'm amazed at how clean and good everything is. No wobbles here and there in shafts or anything like that. All very good. So let's get it back together. Now, before I put it all back together, I just want to measure how far down the jet is so that I can make them all the same as a starting point for when it comes time to tune the car. Jeez. Help if I had a digital vernier. Almost about half a millimetre, which is not very much because I usually set these things down about 2 mil as a starting point, but it all depends on jets and what have you, so we'll see what the other ones are and worry about it then. And normally I put oil in there, but I'll do that when it's on the car. I put a little tiny bit in there for now just to... Alright, end product. One clean, ready to go back on the car SU carby. All feels, looks good. And so let's get on with the other two, and then we'll put them on the manifold. Well, that's all three carburetors all cleaned and ready to rock and roll. So let's get them onto the manifold. Took me a while to find 3 gaskets, but I did. So now this number 3 carburetor was very lean. It wasn't, couldn't even measure how far down the jet was, so that explains a lot of things. Why the last 2 cylinders were running lean. So I've readjusted that down to match the other 2. Well, that's the carbies on the manifold. They're not tightened up yet. Everything's just loose for now, until I can have to adjust the these rods here so that all the 3 of them, the butterflies, are closed at the same sort of point. And then I'll tighten it all up, and that will be that until the engine's back. Alrighty then, the carburetors are bolted to the manifold, all tightened up, springs are on, linkages all on, everything's ready to rock and roll. What I'm going to do here is slacken off the idle screws so that the little butterfly thingy that hits them is not touching at all, so that the butterfly can be completely closed. And then I need to adjust these rods here so that they are the right length, so that they're closed. And then once it's on the car and what have you, then it becomes a tuning process, and we'll go through that another time. Alrighty, let's get on with that. Alrighty, nice new hose. The old hose is still seems alright, but it's hard, so we'll replace it while we're doing this job. Alrighty then, the carburetors are now cleaned, new hoses, manifolds had a coat of paint, everything looks nice and pretty, and hopefully it'll work nice and well. So it can now, like a whole lot of other painted and cleaned parts, can go in there and on the floor underneath the dolly while we wait for the engine to come back. Well, that's about it for this episode. Tune in, same duck time, same duck channel, for more mechanical mayhem on this poor old Triumph 2500. That's when you'll probably see me fit some new brake shoes to the back and remove the rear sway bar. One of the sway bar brackets has taken a fair hit on a rock and bent it, and so I need to get that off and either straighten it or remake it or fix it in some way, shape or form. And and the bushes are all buggered. So that's what I'll be up to next time. Bye for now.